Hi and welcome back to Module 2. In the last module, Module 1, we talked about the psyche and how our living experience and reality is based on our feelings and our emotions and our dreams. And all of that belongs to the psyche. We also talked about how people are unconscious. We're going to be getting into that a bit today. Unconscious means that they don't know why they do what they do. They get triggered, they're investing, they're doing things in relationships. They think they know why they're doing what they're doing, but they don't. So in the same way as we've got brain neurons firing right now, and we wouldn't know that we had those brain neurons firing unless we had been educated that we've got brain neurons that fire. These are unconscious biological processes. Well, most people have unconscious thinking habits and beliefs that they don't see driving behaviours and the choices that they make in life. We also talked about the psyche being made up of parts, and I asked you to sort of observe the inner conflict where one part of you feels this way and one part of you feels another way. Often that inner conflict is a way into ourselves to get to see ourselves. So today we're going to be working with what it means, first of all, to be conscious versus unconscious. If you want to develop self-mastery, which is why you are in this course, you have to become conscious, which is the opposite of being unconscious. Conscious means that I am fully aware of why I am the way that I am. I'm fully aware why I made that choice, or to be more precise, what part of my personality, what part of my psyche is making that choice and why. So this is super important because if you want to be a very, very effective entrepreneur, or if you want to be an incredible investor, or you want to develop great relationships, you need to be aware of everything in you that's making choices in regards to those domains of life. So we set about making the unconscious conscious, going into ourselves to see what's making our choices for us and why. And this is the very ground, or the very foundation of self-mastery. You cannot have self-mastery if you're unconscious to what's driving your decisions. The other thing that we're looking at in this module is identification versus disidentification. So to become conscious, we need to disidentify from the contents of our psyche. And I'll get really clear about this. So, as I said, most people, they've got no idea about who they are. Just no idea. This is adults that have been walking around for 40, 50, 60 years on this planet. No idea. Their felt sense of themselves is, oh, I've got these emotions. I can feel this emotion, I can feel that emotion, or, I can feel a bit grumpy today, or today I feel good. Now, that's a person's experience of themselves. Think about it. Think about yourself. You go about your day and you have all these different emotions. And that's as much of you, of yourself as you know. So, and you're also identified with those emotions. So this is just this sense of I. So as an example, you will say things like, I am happy today, or I am angry today, as though your psyche is just this one thing. I am sad today. I am on fire today. A disidentified way of working with self would be to go, oh, there is anger rising in me, or I can see there is anger in me. Or I can see sadness is coming up in me. So even that statement leads to disidentification. Now, at this point, you might be going, well, why is that important? Let me just tell you right now, it is super important. As you dig further into this course on self-mastery, I'll be showing you why it is really important to disidentify. And I will touch base in this module about why it's also important to disidentify. But I can't speak more strongly about disidentification being a real important part of self-mastery. So identified is, as I said, I'm angry. I'm angry. And let me just break this down for a second. So everyone's had that experience of something happening out there, and next minute you're angry about it. So someone cuts you off in the road. And the anger's there, and you're triggered and doing what anger does. At that point, anger controls you, but you perceive you are the anger. So if I go back to what I said before, and that's why you say, I am angry. But if you're going, well, I can feel anger triggered in me, or there's anger arising in me, it's actually more truthful, first of all. But it starts to lead us to disidentifying from the psyche or the personality as a totality, and we're starting to see that the psyche or personality is made up of parts. And to see these parts, we've got to start to disidentify from. And disidentification is super important for lots of reasons. I'm going to share more about why as we head into the course. But one of the first reasons it's super important is disidentification allows you to start controlling what triggers you. So all of you have had the experience of being triggered, and whatever that is, jealousy, sadness, and whatever it is, can be positive things as well get triggered. But for most people, they'll struggle with being triggered, and it's so automatic that suddenly they're doing things that they regret later, or thinking things that they regret later, or they've acted out and they regret it later. And that's all because of identification. Disidentification slows that down, which we'll talk about. So as we start to disidentify from the psyche, we start to observe the characters that make up the psyche. So in some sense, the psyche or the personality is just a conglomeration of characters. There's characters. And again, I'll say that very easily because I have been doing this work personally for many years and working with clients for over 30 years, helping them understand and see the parts that make up their personality. The characters that make up their personality. And these characters are called sub-personalities. And each of these sub-personalities, these characters, have different belief systems, different emotional tones. So as an example, for me, I'll go through a few of them. I have a part of me that works really hard. It might be called the hard-working achiever part of me. And it's always wanting me to work. And I have to say, this part of me is excited. It likes working, okay? Because I structure my life to do the things that, and my business to do the things that I love and enjoy. And that's another part of self-mastery, by the way. Doing the things that we love and enjoy because we know ourselves so well. We know what brings us purpose, what's meaningful to us. So I've got this hard-working achiever, and it's always dreaming of how I can improve my businesses and how I could improve my teaching. And so if I was only that part, I'd just be working away all the time. Then I've got this other part of me. And this part of me is the adventurer. And, well, you can see that over there, that surfboard. This part of me is a really important part of my personality of my psyche. It has had me sailing boats all around the world. It's had me surfing all over the world. It had me set up businesses so I could go and do those things. And this part of me loves nature, loves being outside, it loves movement, it loves doing exciting sports in the natural elements. And this part of me has brought me so much fulfillment. And we'll bring in a third one here. I have a lover connector. My lover connector believes that people in my family and my friends, they're the most important thing to this part of me, people. And so this part of me wants to put a lot of time aside to be with my kids, as an example, with my wife, with my friends. So these three different parts have completely different belief systems. And they actually have belief systems that are in conflict. And they've got completely different value systems. And these three parts bring me different results. So as an example, my hard worker helps me produce things like I'm producing today. Helps me produce outcomes in business. But if that was the only part of me, wow, I would just work 15 hours a day. And then so I've got this adventurous part of me, and the surf's up, and this part does not care about the working hard. It wants to go and go surfing or go sailing boats. If it's a blue day outside, it just wants to be outside. And the family person, again, it doesn't think those things are that important. Those working hard or surfing or going sailing, it thinks, I've got to spend time with my family. I really love being with them and contributing and connecting with them. Now, you'll observe how well I know these different parts, because these characters make up my personality. I've got way more than that. So when we start to understand these different parts, we can start to become more disidentified from. Now, I'm going to talk now what we call a psychotechnology. So psychotechnologies, human beings are incredible because human beings can facilitate their own evolution. And they can facilitate their own evolution through utilizing psychotechnologies. In a module that I'm going to be getting into very soon, I talk about building observing awareness. Building observing awareness, these days they talk about developing mindfulness, that everyone talks about that. When I first learnt this work, there was no science behind anything that I learnt or I taught. Now there's amazing science behind mindfulness or developing observing awareness. So I'm a trained meditator, and in training as a meditator, and I have very, very unique training, by the way, as a meditator, because I was trained to meditate under extreme physical challenge. And in extreme physical challenge, our psyche start moaning and complaining, as you know. The different parts come up and start moaning and complaining. So I was trained as a meditator to, under that challenge, to go below. This is what we call transcending. And I could observe my mind moaning, but not buy it. And the less I'd buy it and keep dropping away the thinking, the more present I could be under extreme physical challenge and in deep peace. Now, we'll be talking more about that in future modules as well, but why am I talking about this? So what happens is a psychotechnology is developing observing awareness. So we now sit back and we can observe our personality working, and we can start to break our personality down into these characters and parts, work out what's functional, what's dysfunctional, what they believe, how they might support us, how they might undermine us. And this is developing deep, deep self-knowledge, which you already know is the foundation practice or foundation knowledge required for self-mastery. Know thyself. So again, in summary, the unconscious person just feels himself as this one thing, and they've got these emotions coming up, and they say things like, I am this, I am angry, I am sad. Where a conscious person has started to step back and observe their personality and start to break their personality up into the parts, into the characters, into the sub-personality. They are aware that they are not their personality, or another way of saying this, that we are far more than our personality. We can actually see our personality. They're like clothes. Okay. So, again, as we dig into self-mastery, of course, I'm going to be helping you understand what you need to do that. And I do invite you right now to come and work with me if you want to. It's really hard for people who have not got trained awareness through meditative practices to start to slow themselves down enough to start to see their sub-personalities. If you work with me, I will make that really easy for you and help you start to introvert awareness inside. Okay? So you're going to be learning how to do some of this stuff, but it is far quicker and easier if you do come and work with me, and I'll help you see some of your sub-personalities. Anyway, there you go. Keep starting to look at these parts that you start to see arising. Start to work out what some of your characters are. And a really good way of doing that is I want you to think about some conflict you're having or a challenge you're having. So you just shut your eyes, right? Relax and think about the last time you had an argument. And sort of just picture yourself. What was I like when I had that argument? Was I aggressive? Was I passive aggressive? Did I withdraw? Then you go, well, what kind of character was I playing out? So you might have been a tyrant bully. Okay, so I've got a tyrant bully. When the tyrant bully character in me comes up, what's it feel like? It feels hot. I feel powerful. I feel like I want to destroy. Or if in the conflict you are crying and upset and sad and feeling self-pity, well, maybe you have a big self-pity part or a victim part. So this is one of the ways that you can do this, not in real time, because when you get really good at this, when you're trained in self-mastery, you see the characters in the moment. So right now, I'm in my presenter-teacher sub-personality. I know its tone. I know its emotional nuances. I know it uses my hands when I talk. This is a character now that's coming up in my psyche doing this thing. Okay? Now, sabotages happen when the wrong character comes up to control you. Okay, so as an example, we'll finish off with this, and this will lead us into, say, some of the work we're going to be doing a bit later on. I have a part of me that's really violent and aggressive. And I have a part of me that I told you about before, which is a lover connector. Now, I was a rugby player for years. If I took my lover connector, which hates any form of violence and aggression, hates it, because it just loves love, connecting, cuddling, kindness. If I took that to play rugby, that would be a sabotage. But I could take my really aggressive character and go and play rugby, and that was a perfect fit for that sport. If I took that really aggressive part and I took it to home, that would be a sabotage if I was living that out on my family. So again, this starts to point at why. Disidentifying starts to give us control. Okay? So you can hear how well I know these parts. And I can see them arise in the moment. So I am assured I'm not sabotaging because I can see and decide to drop the part that doesn't suit the situation because it's just going to sabotage. That is a byproduct of increased self-mastery, the ability to decide what sub-personality, what character you're going to wear. Like I've got this shirt on, okay, that's appropriate for doing what needs to be done. And being able to drop sub-personalities that are undermining or not supportive of you achieving what you want to achieve. Okay, till next time, catch ya.